Hey, welcome back to the Hotel Orloff. It's a beautiful Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025. A couple of days ago, we lost one of the greats, Jim Shooter. Now, there are people online that say the controversial, that's ridiculous. He's not a controversial figure. Let me tell you something. Some of my favorite comics were written by Jim Shooter. Now, basically, the story about Jim Shooter is he was, kid, and well, he's born in 51. And so he's reading comics in the late 50s. He saw the reintroduction of the Flash, the beginning of the Silver Age, thought those, like that. But he kind of outgrew comics at about age 8. There just wasn't much going on. The Flash wasn't that interesting after a few issues, he said. So he wasn't reading comics. But then I think when he was 12, he had to go into the hospital for some minor surgery and stayed there for a week. And there were comic books everywhere, all over the floor, the wing, the children's wing. So he would see the DC, the National comics, and they had never even been open. They were pristine. And then he saw these new Marvel comics. This is about 1963 we're talking about here. And the new Marvel comics were all dog-eared and worn. So the sick kids that were there recovering, had been reading those Marvel comics. So he read those, and he thought to himself, these are great. And then he spent like a year studying why is it that these new Marvel comics are so much better than these DC comics. He taught himself how comic books work, the story structure and everything. And then at age 13, he puts together, he didn't know how to write a script for a comic book, but he wrote it on notebook paper, drew the panels, drew the art, drew the cover, put the word balloons and everything. He basically made his own little homemade comic book and sent it off to Mort Wessinger at National, at DC. And it was a story for Adventure Comics, for Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. And Mort Wessinger liked it. He thought it was a college kid when he talked to him on the phone. But he bought that story, and then he bought a 2-part story, and then by the time he was, I think he was 13 when he sent that in. By age 14, he was writing for DC Comics and helping with the family income, because his dad was a steel worker and wasn't making much money. So they were from a pretty poor family in Pittsburgh. So he started writing these great stories. I love that time period. And when I was collecting comics, he started writing for Adventure Comics about the time I was born. He was, he was about 13, 14 when I was born. And he wrote through the rest of the 60s, he was writing for Adventure Comics. Then he left the comic industry for a few years and came back to Marvel in the mid 70s and he became editor-in-chief. And I guess he wasn't liked by some of the new, younger creators that were kind of coming out of the hippie movement. They were, sometimes late with their stories and art, and Jim Shooter wrote very hard on them to get their stuff in on time. And he also didn't want some of their more liberal, progressive ideas kind of like they do now in all comics almost. He didn't want that in so they thought, well, that's one of the reasons they consider him to be so controversial, because he went against the liberal agenda. But anyway, so I think he was a great guy. Now he's a wonderful guy. He did return original artwork to Jack Kirby. He did things that the higher ups didn't like, and he did things that the lower downs didn't like making them turn stuff in on time and not, put all their little comic ideas into the comics. And then, so he got, kicked out of there, and then, during the meantime, he had started to, comic book stores were something that only major cities had comic book stores or dealers in the 60s. There was in Los Angeles. There was Cherokee Books, and there was a store in Chicago, and I'm sure there was one in New York. I mean, these guys that deal in old comics, but that was a very unusual thing. Most of the comic book dealers were mail order and put ads in the comics starting in the 60s and definitely in the 70s. But it was a mail order thing. But all of a sudden, in the mid 70s, they started to pop up everywhere. One popped up in my local town, close enough that I could walk to it. Now, it was a 30, 40-minute walk, but I would make it back in the summers, those wonderful days, the weekends, to a new store called Lone Star Comics that opened in the summer of 77, just a few weeks after Star Wars came out in theaters. Buddy Saunders opened up Lone Star Comics. That was my local comic store, and I loved it. And I know where I'm going with the story. I know I'm still talking about Jim Shooter, but anyway, I loved this, having a comic store with old comics that I could buy, like Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes and Adventure Comics and all that great, the Fantastic Four, Kirby Lee stuff, and all that. But where's my water? Jim Shooter, well, they started to release comic books directly to comic stores, and around that time, because home video games were coming out where you could play them in your house, and that was cutting into the comic book kid money buying power budget. So they started releasing comics directly to comic stores, direct distribution. And Jim Shooter was at the beginning of that. I think the first issue of Dazzler only went to comic stores and stuff like that. But that's where I was starting to... It wasn't Jim Shooter's fault. He was trying to keep comic books going forward to the next thing. And then he started a company called Valiant, and he brought back some of the old Gold Key heroes like Magnus Robot Fighter and Dr. Solar, or Solar, or I always pronounce it Solar. Dr. Sol, I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. I hear people on YouTube saying Dr. Solar. I always thought it was Dr. Solar. I don't know why I thought that. And I don't know if the Valiant brought back Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, or Turok, Son of Stone, whatever. I know that character was brought back and turned into a video game there in the 90s. But all that Valiant, I thought it was ugly. Jim Shooter, Jim Shooter did some stuff at Marvel that towards the end, when I started to get sick of Marvel. It was during Jim Shooter took over in the middle of my 5th grade year, around January of 76. But he did there was a mini-series called Marvel Secret Wars, and it was a toy line. They wanted to put out all these action figures, these little dolls of Marvel. I like to call them dolls because it annoys people. But they wanted to put them out, but like, how do you tie all these characters in? So they made a series where all the superheroes and all the villains have to fight each other, and so Jim Shooter wrote that series, and some people thought that Jim Shooter kind of became a little bit too big for his pants, that he thought he was, I think he was just trying to run quality control very strictly but the Marvels, I didn't buy that at the time, the Secret Wars, because I thought it was just an obvious cash grab, an attempt to advertise toys. And then DC did the same thing with Superpowers, with their line, with the comic book series. I just thought, I was in college then, and I thought, oh man, I'd rather buy records and go out and hang out and buy this stuff. But anyway, but later I bought the whole Secret Wars series. I've got a whole set except for that one with the red cover that introduces that stupid black suit that everyone loves. I never got that issue because it's too expensive, but I've never even read it. I have it because I got them out of dollar bins, but I haven't read it, so I can't really tell you it's shitty, and I doubt it's shitty because Jim Shooter wrote it. But I wanted it to be shitty because I didn't want to like it, because I knew it was there existing just to sell toys. But I'm sure Jim Shooter took it to the next level, even though he was forced to create this toy. And he also did this toy promotion. He also wrote the Superman meets Spider-Man big oversized Treasury edition, which I didn't buy at the time either, because I thought, like, this isn't right. I don't know maybe I just didn't have the money. I don't know. But I like Jim Shooter's earlier period. I'm very time specific. I don't really like the 1980s, and I really hate the 1990s as far as comics go. There was a lot of good stuff in the 80s, and there was good stuff in the 90s. I acknowledge that, but for the most part, I'm a 1960s and early to mid 70s guy. That was my time period. So, anyway, the rise of the the comic book stores, Jim Shooter kind of was aiming towards that, and I never was that big on that. It's not Jim Shooter's fault. I like Jim Shooter. I'm on Team Shooter. No one's gonna. Don't knock him, man. So anyway, I decided today. Something about summer always makes me think of the Legion of Superheroes. Now, if you don't know anything about comic books, well, I don't know. There might be someone watching. I have all these new viewers. My subscriber count hasn't gone up. I think the people that watched my comic book videos have left, and I've gotten all this new crowd that's here to see my cats. Because now I've got people in a few people in their 20s and 30s watching instead of just all 55 to 65. So there's new cat viewers, and it's weird. So I need to do more cat. Sometimes you'll see the cats walking around in the background here if you're here to just see cats. But yeah, I've got new viewers. So maybe you don't know about comics, and maybe you've seen all the commercials for this new Superman movie, and you're wondering, why, I didn't know Superman had a dog. It's cool, And that's apparently, there's younger people getting into comics right now. It's very weird. We've talked about what's going to happen to comic collecting. All the older comic collectors are retired. They can't afford all these new comics. Plus, these new comics are terrible. They don't want them. They're the only ones that keep buying them are just people that are so obsessed that they have to just keep buying every appearance of some character that hasn't mattered in decades. But most of the older readers are going. They're disappearing. Now, Kevin Johnson, a comic book store owner in Mesa, Arizona, is a good friend of the channel. I was just talking to him on the phone yesterday, and he was saying he's getting all these younger kids coming into the store. And they're not wanting new comics. They're wanting older comics. And I thought, well, is it because they're interested in this Superman movie? I know there's a lot of interest in crypto. He says, no, it's this video. Well, maybe a little of that. But there's this video game called some Marvel Comics video game that's really popular with these young people and the TikTok people and everything. And they want to go back to the comics and find out more about these characters that are being shown in this video game. It's not people into these the Marvel Cinematic Universe was really good for about 10 years, like really good. There were some great movies, like the Winter Soldier and stuff. They were all great until then it's like you got to the Eternals, and then it got all the TV series, and it just everything got really bad. It just took a nosedive right into the toilet. Those movies. So it's not people interested from that. It's but there's younger people coming into comics, and so anyway, if you're into seeing the Superman commercials of all, we're gonna look at adventure comics, and if you're interested in seeing early appearances of Krypto, that's where you need to go. Hold on a second. I just remembered I got the new facsimile, fake copy of Adventure Comics with the first appearance of Krypto, but I've got to get they're gonna reissue that because they screwed up in the printing of it. But I put them in the spinner rack. Let me get one out to put it in the actual box. Oh, here we go. Let's take this one. Okay, so this is a facsimile of Adventure Comics 210. So I'll put it in with my other Adventure Comics, and then we're gonna go through all my Adventure Comics, which is not a world-class collection or anything, but it's a collection put together over many decades, but I'm not someone that was ever able to buy everything. Okay, so Krypto first appeared in issue 210 of Adventure. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Oh boy. Where am I? Now, there's one thing about DC Comics from the 60s. People in charge, Mort Wessinger, knew that purple covers sold, and purple covers are beautiful, I have to admit. But sometimes it's hard to read the number on a purple cover. This is my earliest. You can see it there. It's issue 238. So Superboy was Superman as a teenager in Smallville, and this is 238. So this facsimile of 210, I'll put it in front of it. I used to keep my facsimiles separate. Now I just mix them in. It doesn't matter. And then I have the next one I have is also a facsimile of 260. And it has an Aquaman story, how Aquaman got his powers. That's why this was done as a facsimile. So this isn't real. You can tell it's not real because the price says $3.99. Okay. So then we go to 274. Okay, now we're around 1961 with number 287. And I can tell that because 10 cents. Why do they have 10 cents in a giant font all of a sudden? Comic books have been 10 cents since the 1930s. And now it's 30 years later in 1961. Now, how did they keep the price at 10 cents? Well, they shrank the page count, but they wanted to keep comics low. They were a loss leader. They brought kids into the store, and then the parents would follow and buy expensive things. They were just really a way to get, the parents in there. Or it was something the parents would get for their kids to shut them up while they shopped there at the Piggly Wiggly or whatever. So this is 287. Now, Superboy could fly and go past the time barrier into the future, and he would hang out with a group of teenagers in the future called the Legion of Superheroes. and he became a member of the Legion of Superheroes, and that's the story of Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. But 287. So anyway, why is 10 cents? So that's because they're about to switch to 12 cents. Probably the next one I'm going to show you will be 12 cents, or maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. Well, the next one actually does still have 10 cents really big. It's Bizarro. And then, oh boy, this one's in ragged shape. 290. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about the 10 cent thing. Let's see. They seem to have 10 cent real big there for a while. Whoa. This is $2.89. I'm whoaing because it says $38 on it. I know I didn't pay that much. Whoa. Oh, it was $38. I got it much cheaper than that. Who's messing with my phone? Oh, that's Ambrose the cat is messing with my cord on my phone. Yeah, I got a discount on this. That's $2.89. $2.91. Now, Jim Shooter wouldn't come in and write the first time when he was 14 or 13, whatever, when he sent his first story in and started actually writing. At age 14, his first issue was 346, so we're not there yet. We're at 302. We're still in the Kennedy era. Now, the interesting thing about the Legion of Superheroes is they were heroes that weren't really famous. So you could marry, they could get married, they could die. They would. It was. They could actually do things with the characters. They could. 302. I mean, they weren't household names. $307. Now, man, these are great. It says $20. I don't remember how this was bought at Duncanville Comics in No Cat. What's wrong with these cats? Why are they acting like cats? The little dot, I think, meant half price, so I think I paid $10 for this. But this is $307. $310. Oh, there's Crypto. Look, what's he saying? Oh, Superboy is going arf arf. And Lana Lang says, it's incredible. Superboy is acting like Crypto, and Crypto is acting like a human. Look, he's there standing, and he's saying, smart thinking, Superboy, saving that falling worker with your teeth. I'll reward you with a juicy bone. And then extra is a great two-part novel featuring the Legion of Superheroes. 307, 310, 312. And then a lower quality copy with a spine roll. This one, I can tell I bought this at Lone Star Comics because, look, there's an F there. That stands for fair, I guess. Yeah, because was there a fair? There was mint. There was fine. Was there fine? There was fine, and there was good. Was there a fair? Was fair underneath good? I can't remember. Now everyone uses this number system, this CGC number system, which I hate. You can also get these in hardcover book form, but you don't get the ads, and you don't really get the real feel of reading them as a kid, but you get the stories. Yeah, 312. Okay. Oh man, can't remember what I just showed you. 302. That was 312. Okay. Here's 313, which is not bagged and boarded, which is not good, but I just don't have any more bags and boards. Maybe next time I'll get to the big city, man. I'll find a comic store and get some bags and boards. Look at the statues of other members of the L family. Yeah, this is the wonderful stuff that makes these comics so great. There's Supergirl, and there was a Super Horse, and there's the Super Cat, and Crypto the Super Dog. I am hoping that when James Gunn does the Supergirl movie, which I think they've already filmed it. I think it's already filmed. I hope they put all the Super Horse and everything else into the stories. Anyway, that's my hope. That's 313. Okay, so I'm missing a few issues. Here's 316. I probably have those issues in the hardcover form. We can check in a minute. 317. I would walk all the way to Lone Star Comics in the late 70s, early 80s and buy issues of Thor and Fantastic Four from the 60s and Legion of Superheroes and Doom Patrol from DC. All that great comics that were affordable at the time. I couldn't afford the 60s Spider-Man comics. They were really pricey. Damn, man. Okay, man. I can't see a thing. Uh, 302, 307. Oh, here we go. Okay, we got some more books. Okay. Okay, I don't know if I just showed you this one or not. 318. Did I show you this? It's no telling. 318. 319. We're still not to the Jim Shooter years. Another 319. Missing 320. There's 321 and okay, these are from Lone Star Comics. See, they marked that one an F, which so it's got some problems like being dog-eared, and you know, it's been read by a kid, obviously. This one says G for good, so it's in better shape. Uh, 321. 322. We're probably in 1964 now, because it doesn't say 64 there. That's what kind of makes me think that. 322. 323. And yeah, this one is 324. It has a date stamp. Date stamps were put there so the news dealer would know when it was put out on the stand so they could pull it later. It says August 6th, 1964. So this was summer, 61 years ago, this comic came out. Got a couple of copies of that one. All by accident, I would forget which ones. I'd always get into a feeding frenzy during the summer to buy Legion of Superheroes. Like the first time I would mow the lawn in the summer or late spring, I would feel like I need to buy more Superboy and Legion of Superheroes. I'd have this compulsion, and I'd go and I'd buy them, and sometimes I didn't realize I already had that issue. And that was a thing because the first time I was allowed to mow the lawn by myself, my mother was scared, I'd cut my foot off or something with a lawnmower. When I was allowed to do that, I was able to make money mowing the lawn, and then I used that money to buy, I remember it was in 1977, I could show you the actual issue of Legion of Superheroes. Of course, Jim Shooter wasn't writing it then, but it was fantastic. So I associate in my mind the Legion of Superheroes with mowing the lawn. I don't know, just how my mind works. 324. Yeah, getting ready for July 4th holiday in a couple of days. Today is Wednesday and July 4th is Friday. So tomorrow, Donald Trump is going to be doing a big rally in Des Moines, and he's going to start a year-long World's Fair kind of celebration in Des Moines at the fairgrounds there, where they have the state fair, and they're going to celebrate the 250th birthday of the United States, culminating in July 4th of next year, which will be the actual 250th birthday of the signing of the Declaration of Independence and all that. Fantastic. So I'm listening to my radio broadcast that I did the other day. I pretended that it was actually July 4th when I was broadcasting. It's all a lot of fun. I go to a website called Suno.com. With my friend Randy told me about it because he was writing the lyrics and creating these funny, amazing songs. So on Suno.com, you put in what style of music you want. I want it to sound like a 1965 British Invasion song. I want it to sound like 1969 Sunshine Pop, basically like that I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing in Perfect Harmony, or the New Seekers, or you want it to sound, you can't say I want it to sound like the Beatles. They won't allow you to do that. But you could say 1964 British Invasion Band, or you could say 1966-67 with orchestral drop-ins, and you could say I want a Hammond organ in it, and you tell what instruments. I want echo. You can just tell it everything. I want it to build to a crescendo. I want a male and a female singer to alternate. I want the male to be very serious, and I want it to sound like classic country from 1952, or I want it to sound like a big band song from 1941, and I want a female singer. You tell it what to do, right? And then you can write all your lyrics, or you can just write a little short summary of what the song's about and give it some basic catchphrases to start with. And then you press a button, create, and then about 5 seconds later, it gives you two songs, two different versions of the same song with differences. Uh, and and then you listen to them, and you can keep both songs, or you could throw both songs in the trash. You could keep one of them, and then you don't like either one, you can press create again, and it generates these songs. It's AI, artificial intelligence, doing it, right? And sometimes you'll create a masterpiece. And so what I do is I get a whole bunch of songs that I create on Suno. The free program only gives you like 10 songs a day. Free program's worthless, and the songs sound terrible on the free program. You got to pay $10 a month, and then they give you a higher level program where it doesn't just sound like it doesn't sound terrible. And then if you go to the next level, pay, I don't know, $29 a month, then you can really create some real sounding music. And then of course you just make the lyrics silly or crazy, and so I get a whole bunch of songs, and then I DJ, where I'm the DJ playing these songs. They're like songs from the 60s and 50s and 70s that I've created. So then I just go on as a DJ and play old commercials, so they're like oldies that never really existed. You're hearing them for the first time. You're creating new oldies. I'm having fun with it. I'm doing it. Not many of my regular viewers watch it. I did one a few days ago. I've only had like 140 maybe people watch it. And those people, says average view 6 minutes. Like, man, you didn't even get past the roller rink music I had at the beginning. Some of you people to hear the wonderful creations. But anyway, some people have violent reactions to AI, and I hate AI too. But since they don't make new good music today, I'm going to have to resort to the evil robots to create it. Anyway, so we're back to moving up to the Jim Shooter years. Here's Adventure 326. Another issue of that. 329. 330. Here's another 330 that's totally trashed. Big chunk of paper gone. How does a kid do that? How do you destroy a book like that? 331. I heard Jim Shooter in an interview this morning. I was listening to an old interview with him, and I remember him talking about this issue, and he said the cover looks so great. And it just looked like, man, that's going to be the greatest issue ever. And then he said the story inside was so tepid. Not as great as the cover would make you think it was going to be. So that's why he's going to come in just a few, not too long after this. Now we're up to 334. Another purple cover. See the purple covers, they said, sold better, and covers with gorillas, and I can't remember what other covers. There was another thing they liked on these DC. Okay, so we're up to 335. Hold on, guys. Damn it. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're up to 337. Like I said, characters could get married and it's not without any big deal. 337, 338, 340. I think I have the first issue that Jim Shooter wrote. I'm pretty sure 341. I'm getting nervous. Do I have it or not? 342. See, another purple cover. 343. 344. 345. Ah, yes, here it is, 346. Not in very good shape, but this is the first Jim Shooter published story when he was a teenager, freshman in high school. Now, the thing about it, the other writers at DC were good writers. Some of them, man, they were like my age, and they didn't know. They had been writing since the 40s, and they'd been some of them had been writing before comics existed for the pulp magazines like Otto Binder and stuff, and they just didn't they didn't know how kids talked, and so of course kids in the future may not talk the same way they do, but you have a teenager writing your stories, then it's I don't know, it works. Let me see if I have another copy of the same issue. Yes, I do, actually. I have another copy of 346. But let's look at the bad one. Let's pull it out. Liz Joe. Look at that, man. A lot of damage. This book's taken a lot of damage. Yeah, remember the Inferior Five? They're appearing in Showcase, and they've got them fighting the Hulk. Yeah, this book's in bad shape. So Jim Shooter drew everything. He drew the comic. He did. Then they had a professional artist, I guess, basically redraw what he had sent in, drawn on notebook paper. So they don't credit the artist. At this point, they weren't really crediting the artist. Anyway, let's see if they talk about it in the letter page. Oh, man, some kid was really into it back there. He put died in action. They're writing in. This was a real fan. He's crossing out some of the heroes that. Oh, okay. So he's added bouncing. See how that guy wrote Bouncing Boy in before Brainiac 5? He's making the. Yeah, Pharaoh Lad. He crossed out, can turn his body to solid iron, and wrote died in action. I forget there was a Legion reservist named Kid Psycho. Yeah. Yeah, and he created these new characters, by the way. Karate Kid, Princess Projectra, Pharaoh Lad, and Nemesis Kid. Now, Karate Kid, when they made that Karate Kid movie in 1984, they had to acknowledge DC Comics because they had a comic book called Karate Kid. You know, this character, and they wanted to. And there's some new Karate Kid movie out. Man, I'm pissed off. The local theater, we only have one theater in town. They only play one movie a week, and they only show it for 3 times. Once on Friday night, once on Saturday, and then a matinee on Sunday. And so next week is the big premiere of Superman. But they're running they're closed this weekend for July 4th. They're running How to Train Your Dragon. It's like, man, how out of touch can you possibly be? And they're not going to play, maybe Superman will play the next weekend, but I'll probably drive to the big city to see Superman instead of walking to the theater. Yeah, man. How about that? Okay, so that's the first Jim Shooter. Here's 347. $348. I should have pretty much all of these Jim Shooter ones because then the other Adventure Comics are in another box here. Let's see what else is in this box. Action Comics. Action. It's the Action Comics. Okay, then Adventure. I highly recommend you tune into my radio show. I'm having fun with it. I don't have any, comics to show you. Here's Adventure 348. 349. Here's 350. Man, I don't know about this girl playing Supergirl. I hate to be mean, but I guess a lot of people would consider her pretty. I think her name is Millie Alcock, but I just don't know, man. Something a little weird looking about her. A little Basil Wolverton looking around the mouth, but it's all right. Okay, 351. So far, I've got all the Jim Shooter ones. Let's see how it goes. Okay, 352. Ooh, I'm missing 353. Here's 354. $355. 356. 357. 358. Hey, you're listening to WFUN, man, where AI robots recreate your childhood and your teenager. 359. Oh, I'm missing 360. Here's 361. Another purple cover, and then 363 is a purple cover. How about that? $364. And then I'm missing a bunch of them. Here's 370. Now, in the 380s, Superboy would leave Adventure and then Supergirl would take over. And then the Legion of Superheroes would switch over to the Superboy comic. This is here's another copy of 364 that's not bagged and boarded. It's not in very good shape. That's really cool that Aurora had these little tiny layouts with these postage stamp trains. I've never seen one of those in person. I guess they're still not crediting the writers and artists at this point. I think they usually did it in the letter pages sometimes. Maybe. A Lois you've never seen before. Mod and Mad.
Yeah, you're tuned to
How about that?
It's the Grottu Orloff show. It's our big July 4th extravaganza here, man. Let's go.
Yeah, if you're needing to get your crypto fix after, all these people into crypto now are gonna seek out these old adventure comics. Is my recommendation. I mean, they're a lot of fun. These comics are really a hoot. I've never seen this comic in my life. Have you? The showcase with Top Gun. It's a Western hero that. This was the ad I always liked. Mattel's new M16 Marauder. If you think this gun looks great, wait till you hear it. Brap, 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 brap. Wow, here's the most authentic looking and sounding rifle you've ever seen. Just pull back the cocking lever and this amazing gun is ready to fire. Brap. You can squeeze off single shots. Brap. Or short burst. And listen to this. Keep cocking the fantastic M16 Marauder and you can cut loose with a solid blast almost a whole minute long, over 50 rounds, and all with the loud, realistic sound of the actual M16 rifle. And another neat thing about Mattel's new M16, it doesn't need any caps, no batteries either. You never reload. So get on target, get Mattel's new M16 rifle. It's the greatest. See and hear Mattel's M16 Marauder at your nearest toy store together from Mattel. I'd like to look this up, this M16, and see what the packaging looked like. And maybe someone's got one on eBay. Here's of course you could always afford Aquaman and Tomahawk pretty easily back in the late 70s, early 80s, because nobody collected those books. So that's 364, and then I'm missing them until 370. Like I said, I probably have the reprints in the hardcover. We'll check that out in a minute. Here's 371. Now things are starting to look different because at this point, I don't know if that's Neil Adams. It sure looks like Neil Adams, but the Neil Adams influence was spreading all over DC. They were trying to, you can just see the difference between this and that. It's just in the art style. And Neil Adams kind of came in, and DC was kind of trapped by the Batman TV show into they wanted to go a little more serious route after that TV show got canceled in '68. And Neil Adams came in and started doing a lot of covers. 373. $374. Yes, indeed. Missing 375. There's 376. Yeah, I'm missing more of these than I realized. Oop, no, up to 380. We're in the very end of the yeah, because here 387 Supergirl has taken over the comic, and that was 380. Yeah, I'm missing a few issues. I don't know exactly what issues Supergirl took over. But the Legion of Superhero stories were still being printed. They were just in another comic. But she took over Adventure.
Hey man, hey, it's your pal Grottu Orloff. Man, I've been teaching these AI robots to make good music.
One thing about this AI music, you don't have to worry about any copyright infringement. If you are on the $10 a month plan, then the copyright is basically yours. I know it's some people. Anything you create in the free for free, they own it basically. They could technically do a copyright claim on you if you used it on YouTube. The 400th issue of Adventure. Supergirl would change her outfit in every issue. This was when, this time period, there's not many words. It's kind of like in the comics of today. Not knocking them, but oh, okay. This is when Kirby came over. Yep. Well, I don't know if you want to keep looking at those. I can show you more of these. Yeah, Supergirl has a different costume in every issue, just about. It's cool, but there's a feeling of desperation. You know, you just sense like, man, what are they doing? Okay, and then at this point, Adventure Comics is these are boxes of Silver Age comics. So my Adventure Comics from the 70s on are going to be in different boxes upstairs. I brought these 2 boxes down to do this episode on Jim Shooter. And, we can look at Bob Hope comics, because that was Adventure, and then the next thing in the box is the Adventures of Bob Hope. I don't file Bob Hope under B. I file it under A for Adventures of Bob Hope. This is number 83. Bob Hope. Trying to sell Bob Hope to kids in the 60s. They had to try to make him with it. So they added this British invasion looking guy, and they added lots of monsters because I got Suno to create fake Archie's records. All I had to do was type in 1969 bubblegum rock, and then it sounds like the Archies. It's the #1 song in the United States in 1969 was Sugar, Sugar by the Archies. So it sounds like Betty and Veronica and Archie singing about burning Riverside High School to the ground. So that's why Suno.com is so much fun to me, and it's been the highlight of my summer 2025. But I love these. I love monsters, and there was a big monster craze that was going on from the late 50s all the way to the mid 70s. I wouldn't call it a fad when it goes on that long. And you can sell comics by putting monsters on the cover. Yeah. I try to have all of these Bob Hope monster ones, but I don't have them all. This one's been through a fire, but I still bought it just because of the coolness of it. Yeah, the monsters were on the cover of every issue, trying to get you to buy it. Um, this one was sent to me as a present by Missing Mars. So last time I showed these, he noticed I didn't have one of them, and he just ordered it from mycomicshop.com for me. That was super nice. Here's issue 100.
July 4th with us, and make sure you don't blow off any fingers or blow your eyeball out of your socket or something when you're lighting off those fireworks tonight. The Grottu Orloff Show.
Here you've got a shark and the monsters here on the side as floating heads. This is the 50th anniversary of the summer of Jaws. It was out in theaters at this point in 1975. That was the big thing about the summer of 75. And that's what made summer blockbusters a big thing. That's why Superman and Jurassic Park or World or whatever and Fantastic Four are coming out within the next couple of weeks because of Jaws. Before then, big movies could come out at any time, but now it's basically Christmas and summer. And I remember, we were packing up at that point and moving from San Antonio to Tacoma, Washington. And then I was going from 4th grade to 5th grade. But I didn't see Jaws in the theater. I didn't see it till it came out on television. I think because we were moving, and I don't think my mom wanted me to see that movie because she'd heard how, I guess, violent it was. I don't know. But I remember going to the supermarket. We went to H-E-B, and while my mom was shopping, I would go and I'd read the first few pages of the Jaws paperback that would describe the girl getting chomped by the shark. I remember reading those first few pages a bunch of times whenever she was shopping. Yeah, that paperback and that image of the shark coming up was everywhere. Here's 105. Oh, another copy of the same one. Here's 106. (107). This is a Neil Adams cover here. 108. Here's another copy. And then it cuts to the adventures of Jerry Lewis. Now, there's 93. He'd have monsters on the cover of his comic, too. And weirdly, there was a summer camp with a Nazi that ran it. So this Nazi guy was on the cover of a bunch of issues. It's very strange. Now he's on another planet. Probably the moon. I don't think they've ever reprinted the Bob Hope or Jerry Lewis comics. I really don't think they ever did. I could be wrong. 109. Another 109. Oh my gosh, then I have some facsimiles. Here's a facsimile of All American Comics introducing the Green Lantern.
Welcome back to WFUN, broadcasting from the basement below the Grottu Orloff.
Here's a facsimile of All Star Comics number 3. Then some amazing adventures. Number 1. That's a cool comic. And I'm missing 2. Here's 3. Shit. Here's 4. Is it 11 o'clock yet? Here's 6. And then sort of a facsimile of Amazing Fantasy number not 15 but 13. This was the reprinted by J.C. Penney in the 90s. It has new ads in it. It doesn't have the vintage ads, so it's not. But here's a facsimile of the Amazing Spider-Man number 1. And then here's something that's not a facsimile, but so we're apparently into the Amazing Spider-Man section. Here's number 22. Which is my earliest real issue of Amazing Spider-Man. It's and here's 32. I was wanting this all my life because when I was in 4th grade, I went to a friend's house and he had this issue that he'd been handed down from his mom or something, and I remember that little inset picture of Aunt May in the hospital, and then I was able to get this just a few years ago at Duncanville Books. It's a 4.0, $60. I think I got it on half price day or something. I don't know. Ouch. Okay, so there's that. There's 38. I got that from Captain Strangelove. Here's 42 with the first appearance, the first full front appearance of Mary Jane Watson. 42, the famous panel, "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot." 48. And this is one I got from Captain Strangelove. It has a subscription crease, or maybe a crease from being folded to sneak it into school. First appearance of the Kingpin. He's got some comparables written on the back, what they sold for. There's 54. I'd like to get more of the Spider-Mans from this time period, but will it ever happen? Hopefully. 55. 57. 58. Here's 59. 62. This one is interesting. 64. It's not in very good shape. I bought it from Gotham City Comics, but it looks like it's got a signature of someone important, but it's actually just I guess the original owner's signature. But doesn't it? It says Reuben. It almost looks like the way Bill Everett would sign his name. But it's no one having to do anything with the comic book. It's the owner of the comic, and his name is Reuben. He's got Reuben in quotation marks, and then it says, I just don't know, man. Interesting. Normally you see a name scrawled on the comic, so it's not stolen by the little brothers or older brothers. This one is someone an artist in training, trying to practice his signature. That was 64. Here's 65. $66. 68. Whoa, that's quite a jump. 68. Now I've jumped up to 82. Man. Here's 86. 87. 88. 94. 96. This issue, notice, doesn't have the comics codes symbol on it. This is the one that the code wouldn't let it fly through because it has drug use in it. Of course, it shows the dangers of drug use, but they didn't want drugs in comics at all. Stan Lee thought it was important enough to go ahead and publish, and it was still sold on newsstands, and it weakened the code. The code was embarrassed. And then the codes went and revamped them. They revamped themselves because they realized, man, we're looking like fools. And then they started allowing monsters and horror more in the comics. And so that's why you had that giant boom of horror comics in the late 60s and into the 70s. House of Mystery, Ghost, House of Secrets, Unexpected, Witching Hour, all that stuff from DC. And then at Marvel, they started their horror comics, and then they started Tomb of Dracula and Werewolf by Night. It was all because all of a sudden the comics code said you can have vampires and all that. Before, they said you could only slide monsters into comics if they were humorous, like on the Bob Hope comic, but you couldn't do serious depictions of monsters unless it was Classics Illustrated doing Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. If it had some literary, intellectual stuff. See, right here, 101. This is a facsimile from I think the 90s. Yeah, when comics were $1.75, that was a long time ago. This is a reprint of 101, and so they're bringing in Morbius. But they were still a little nervous, so they would call him Morbius the Living Vampire, because they were still nervous about whether they could get away with having him the undead. So they would always say, It, the Living Colossus, the Living Mummy, the Living Vampire. They're alive. They're not dead. This is a facsimile of Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1. That's a giveaway there, plus the price of $7. No, $7.99. Yeah, that's. Here is a real Amazing Spider-Man Annual #3.
Hey man, it's the Grottu Orloff show.
Here's a fake one, #5, because see, it has a Stridex ad from the 90s on the back. It's one of those JCPenney ones. Here's #6. This one's real. #8. Yeah, I've got some foreign Spider-Mans. Angel and the Ape. See, whenever they have trouble selling a book, they bring in the monsters. About 10 years later, in 1975-76, if a book's having trouble selling, they'd put a shark on the cover because of Jaws. And Marvel would always put Spider-Man on the cover of anything they were nervous about sales. They'd put Spider-Man there. Here is Aquaman #16 with a really cool cover. I wish I had more Aquaman comics. Here is a coverless Aquaman. I can't even read. Shit. Aquaman #20. Aquaman 22. Let me see what time it is. This is getting ridiculous. Is it after 11? I can't see a thing. I put stuff in front of the clock, and now I can't read the clock. It's ridiculous. 11. It's 5 minutes till 11, so that means that it's almost time for Alex Jones. Also need to check the mail. I'm expecting a book in the mail. Okay, we'll switch from YouTube to Rumble. So anyway, Jim Shooter, don't listen to people that tell you anything negative about him. I've been out planting grass last few days. I think it's going to rain this weekend, which will be good for it.
Every corporation you can point to. I mean, I guess that's why we use the pyramid to symbolize the Illuminati.
Blah, 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 blah.
right? Because you sort of have the people at the top, they make the decisions. That just sort of gets dispersed out through all of these different
Okay, so we're ready to record Alex Jones. All right, so what do we got here? More Aquaman.
this one organization.
I just showed you this one, didn't I? I think so. Yep, I did. Let's see what else is in this box. Oh, it has a date stamp. September 8th, 1966. So this would have been on the stands when the Marvel Superheroes cartoon premiered. That premiered in September of 1966. Aquaman 33. Wow. Wait, these are out of order. What? Why are they out of order?
It is so tough. Well, it's been incredible. I wish we had so much longer to talk to you. Hamdan Azar is my guest.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is 26.
HamdanAzar.com. We'll be, watching your story, and I wait to see, what happens.
Okay, so we're at 33.
In Texas, and I'd love to have you on the show.
Then a little bit of a gap to 46.
Thank you, sir. Hamdan Azar at Hamdan Azar on X. So follow him.
The coverless
Yeah, we need more people from inside Black
13.
on what they're doing.
These are not in order.
Because it ain't good, and it's certainly not for our benefit. Folks, stay tuned to the
Right. This is 30 something. It's hard to read with the purple background, but okay. This is a magnificent cover, number 42. And there may be some more Silver Age Aquamans in the next box, but I only brought these two boxes down because I wanted to talk about Jim Shooter. Oh, interesting. No, it isn't interesting at all. Never mind. I guess we could look at some of the Action Comics that are in the other box right before Adventure. If you want. Let's see. Maybe not. No, I don't want to do that. Oh, wait, what about this box? This box might be entertaining. I was moving this box downstairs and it wound up here. Oh man, it's got some original art. This is an original piece of artwork from Joe Riley. Joe Riley from 1995. Joe Riley's the guy that made the Hypnotic Eye public access show. He did this for a magazine I was doing. So let's see, it's original art. This is Blue Lines. It's Jan from Space Ghost. And there's, I guess, Space Ghost is looking on disapprovingly. Yeah. And here's the funny pages. This is underground. Make sure the images are. Oh yeah, this is not very good. Shoot, shouldn't be showing that. Sorry about that. It's like funny pages, but it's inappropriate for. Here's some Vaughn Baudet, and it's just like. You think you're reading a regular funny pages, except this is a. Oh wait, there's a sheet of notebook paper in here
Accelerate towards July 4th,
with
2025. It is Wednesday, July 2nd.
some little pencil drawing on it.
Your host, Alex Jones.
I better take that out.
Information coming up
Weird.
in the studio. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later.
Then they have a real comic strip, Little Nemo in Slumberland. This is from February of 1975. It's not from the 60s, but
Well-read individuals. You find the archive of that right now at Infowars.com, band.video, and of course, Orloff shows on X if you missed it. Now,
it's the funny pages, lots of comics, games, puzzles, features, and other nice stuff. February 1975, number 1. How about that? This was a gift from a friend of mine. He gave me this whole box, most of this box of stuff. This is number 2 from March of 75. Yeah, I wonder how many of these exist out there in the world.
Now, what he did, what he's been convicted of, is illegal in places like Las Vegas.
Some of this he gave me. Some of this is other stuff. Like this is bigger than a Treasury edition. I have it in this box, this flat box, because I don't know where else to put it. This is all bezel Wolverton, but it's the Foop Goop Frolics. But I'm sure it was sold through the Underground Comics Network. But it's all done from his original artwork. This is from his biblical, he did these, the end of the world. Let's see. Wonderful stuff, man. Just wonderful. What else is in this box? Oh man, there's a lot of cool stuff in here that I put in here because I couldn't fit it anywhere else. Here's like a 1940s coloring book. Oh, here's a painting I did once. I forgot I did this painting. That's pretty good. I didn't know that was in there. No, there's all kinds of stuff. Here's a page probably from Esquire. The front of the Enterprise model kit that I got in 3rd grade. Oh man, this is a good thing I discovered this box. Here's John Carter Lives, an issue of Comic Scene. This was Jim Steranko magazine. It was Comic Scene, then it became Media Scene, and then it became Preview. But all kinds of neat stuff in that box. Wow. Hold on a moment. Yeah, let's go look at those adventure comics. DC Archives editions, I believe. Yeah, that's what they call them. I was going to mow the lawn today. I better do that. Uh, oh, okay. They're just called Legion, huh? I I bought some of these at Ross Auto. Come on, man. What is this stuff on top? Some of these I got at half price books, and they don't have the dust jacket. This is this starts with issue 306. And see, this is probably a good way to read all of these stories. You don't get the ads, the house ads, and everything, but this is Legion Archives Volume 2. Here's Volume 4. This one starts with Adventure 329. There's 337. And then we're up to Volume 5. Oh, here we go. This one there's 346, which is the first Jim Shooter story. And then this one. What? This is number 6, Volume 6. This starts with 350 and goes to 358, these issues. And then I got, cheaper. Someone had sold to us half-price books, 3 of them without the dust jackets. This is 8, 9, and 10. And now these are going to be later. This time period, and damn it. Yeah, in the 20-cent era. This is that great time period in the 70s, man. I should be reading this shit right now. Why am I doing this show instead of reading this? Well, I gotta watch Alex Jones. Gotta mow the lawn. I got things to do. Yeah, I forgot about all these DC archive editions, man. Yeah, man. How about that? So, Well, let's go see how the grass is growing, man. Turn off these lights I put on for the, turn them on for the show. What's Alex Jones talking about? Did I start the recording? Oh, I didn't even start the recording, man. What am I thinking? Gotta rewind it. Hold on. See, the lights aren't working here. I'm gonna have to replace a bulb. Shoot, there's always something. Oh, oh, thank you.